right, ladies and gentlemen, players in Singapore and also around the world. My name is Kenneth. This is my channel, That's Well Play. And right besides me, it's the only player during the Singapore Nationals that score a 9-0 in day one, advancing to day two. Let's welcome Chu Heng. Hello. Yo, all right. Okay, you do have some reputation after Pro Tour Lille.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, very unexpected event. So
Hey, don't be modest. Okay, you have the highest standing in terms of ELO.
yeah, limited.
Okay, in terms of ratings. So that's your number one in Singapore. I do believe that after Singapore Nets, you will surpass the international number one.
Well, it depends on the draft in day two because there's still 3 rounds of draft. But at the current moment, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But true. But as far as ELO ratings is concerned, you are unbeatable at the moment.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, I haven't had much success in local RB, so
All right. Okay, let's go through this. So we in Singapore, we just concluded our day one. So it's a mixed format.
Yep.
So every player first have to go through three switch round of classic constructed, then followed by 3 drafted rounds and 3 CC again. So it's 9 games, very, very long day. So Chu Heng actually cruised through with 3-0 during the first 3 CC games. All right. And you are playing as Icelander, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's right. So what I'm playing today was I would say a mashup of Michael Hamilton's list and his very close friend Rogers. Yeah. So basically I kind of combined cards that I like from both lists, removed everything that I didn't like, and then that's what I'm playing today.
So it's kind of like a mid-range Icelander.
So I basically kept all the E-Strikes, all the Wounded Bulls and like Winter Fighting Spirit.
All right.
And so I didn't really like Scar for Scar. I can see why Michael Hamilton likes the card, depending on like how he plays Icelander. But I prefer Aether Hills because I like arcane damage against decks that can't really block it, like Dromite. And I prefer to give more value to cards like Stormstriders to my equipment. I think it's the most important wizard like equipment. And playing Scar for Scar doesn't really make it very good because you might not draw any like high damaging, not the wizard spells and stuff.
Okay, I love playing wizards. Not a very good player myself, but I do understand that since Stormstrider is there, right? If you do not have any powerful spell to actually to follow up, and it's just pure battle mage style, it doesn't make sense to even have Stormstriders as part of your equations. Yeah. All right. So how will you name this deck? It's like if Michael Hamilton's is like a battle match, and then how will you name it?
I guess it's slightly more mage than just battle, but I would say it's still quite battle mage.
Okay.
I basically, so what I did was I basically kept in some more disruptive cards like Yellow Ice Fate. I think I still have 2 copies and I like it against Spy. Whereas I think cards like Wounded Bulls are not as high value. But that's just how I approach a matchup, I guess. I prefer to, keep my opponent under more control. And if I can create space, then the Winter Fighting Spirit and E-Strikes do more,
Okay. All right. Well, it's proven that it works because you got a 3-0 going into the draft. How was the matchup actually? Is it that easy?
I kind of got a little lucky. I got around 1 buy.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess sometimes you just need a bit of luck as well. But I did beat 2 5s on the way to 3-0. Yeah, and they were very comfortable games, especially the second round. Yeah, I drew really well and I fully utilized my Yellow Ice Veins as well.
Wow.
So I think my opponent was more or less just playing on 2 cards every turn.
Goodness. It must be nightmare for your opponent.
It's kind of brutal.
Okay. For the benefit of doubt, for the international players right here, the meta in Singapore, we will do a breakdown in a detailed report to LSS.
Yep.
But what I can tell you is it's a very wide variety meta.
Yeah.
It's very open. So in terms of the IC heroes that we had 17 Odin, 11 Icelanders, but we do have 12 Briar and 13 Phi, as well as 10 Dromites following right behind. So it's really kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a very IC control meta, because we do have about more than 30% heroes are actually quite aggro. We even have 9 dash. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's more of a Southeast Asian thing. I think Dash is quite popular in these regions. And I so happen to be also with I'm good friends with like Brian Kong. I think a lot of people know him as the local go-to Dash player. Yeah, he's really good. So I get a lot of quality Dash practice as well.
We even have very dedicated Levia players. We have 4.
I know.
But unfortunately, they all got friendly fire. They just have mirror matches against each other. So that's a very sad thing.
Yeah.
Right. So okay, so the first 3 games, 1 walkover, 2 Phi, easy game. But okay, let's talk about the draft. All right. So during the draft, from your list, apparently you're still playing Icelander.
Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting story actually. So what happened was I kind of went into the draft knowing that I might not be able to draft Icelander. So because it kind of got out that I played Icelander at the Calling Singapore. I played 2 drafts of Icelander, and then at Lille I played another 2 drafts of Icelander. So it kind of felt like I might not be able to draft the hero, but I kind of took a little risk. So I first picked like a Brothers in Arms Red because it's a really good card in general.
Yep.
And then the second pick came, I had another choice between Brothers in Arms Red and the Eta Icewind Red. So, the Icelander in me just went, I probably should take the Icewind. It's kind of strong.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the third pack came an Ice Boat, and I just,
and that's about it.
But I kept an open mind. So what happened was, if I noticed that there are more Dromai or good Dromai or good Fire cards, maybe some Dragons, then I will definitely swap out Icelander. But as it turns out, the drafter to my right, I think he took some Dragons at the start because the rares in the packs were missing and some generics. So I felt that Icelander was pretty open, so I just continued going to Icelander.
So the fact is, your pot, which is pot 1, there's a total of 4 Phis, 2 Dromai, and 2 Icelanders.
Yeah.
So Icelander is actually in a very good position.
Yeah. That was pretty much it. And I mean, I kind of lucked out on one of the Spellfire cloaks. I think that's the most important Icelander equipment in draft. And I got it third pack, 8th pick, I think. Yeah. Okay, so it kind of worked out.
And another very interesting fact is all the 3-0 players that went into draft, most of them actually drafted Phi. Is it because they felt that it could be an easier win if they...
Not necessarily, because I think Phi has probably the best card in draft, which is Lava Burst. I have lost a draft game because my opponent won the die roll, decided to go first.
Okay.
And then he just went something along the lines of like 3 go gain 1, and then Lava Burst for 5.
That's
and my whole hand. Yeah, my whole I just lost like 5 life, I think, or something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Lava Burst is a really strong card. And I think that is definitely one of the benefits of playing Phi, that you cannot get Icelander. Yeah.
All right. So is Icelander is kind of like your pets during a draft game?
I would say I'm most comfortable on Icelander because I did play a lot of limited Icelander, and it just so happens that the more recent Icelander deck in Classic Constructed helped a lot. But I would say I'm most practiced on Icelander.
So your drafted game during the Pro Tour, you also drafted Icelanders all the way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
does that actually like help mold you in towards like Icelander for this time around?
Actually, it's quite interesting. I learned quite a lot while drafting at the Calling and the Pro Tour. I learned how to draft a more efficient Icelander deck. Yeah, so the initial plan was to draft more blues, to utilize Icelander's ability. But then I realized that sometimes you can't close the games because all you're doing is playing at instant speed and your opponent can block a lot of damage, right? So I started to prioritize more raids and it kind of worked out better. That's what I'm on.
Yeah, and I think in a mixed format, right? I think competitive players find it more and more important to actually to kind of like master the art of drafting, because as we can see progressing after the 3 draft games, right? Players that are in pot 5 and 6 actually advanced pretty tremendously. They were like out of the top 30 after the first 3 CC games. But then they now after the draft, they managed to get into the top 10. So I think drafting after a few international games, Du Chu-Heng felt that drafting is really an art to master if you want to really play in an international arena.
So it's kind of interesting, right? So I think Worlds is 4 rounds of Blitz, 4 rounds of CC, and 6 rounds of draft. So I would say drafting is really important if you want to do well, because draft takes up most of the, if you think about it, CC is only 4 games at Worlds, Blitz is only 4 games at Worlds, and draft is 6 rounds, right? So I would say learning to draft is quite important at this stage. And this draft, I feel like it's not as random as people say. I agree that there's quite a high, what's the right term? There's still a variance factor, but I don't think it's as high as what a lot of players think it is. I noticed most of my drafts that I don't do well. Perhaps I made some mistakes in the draft. I mean, some portion of it does really come down to draws. Sometimes your opponent just draws like all his raids in the first 2 turns. That's fine. That's kind of why Pi is good, but just not as random, I would say. It really comes down to.
I would say the format that we are experiencing in Singapore National, it's quite a good format, because after 3 rounds of CC, those who are in the same pot with you during the draft, you should be at the same competitive levels, I would say.
I think both draft pots and pots 1 and pots 2 were extremely competitive. I would say if things had gone differently for some of my opponents and they had lost to one of the more proficient draft players, maybe I wouldn't have treated the draft. I don't think the results wise, I would say yes, I would seem like the more successful limited player in Singapore, right? But actually, I don't think that's the case. I think there's really a lot of talented draft players in Singapore.
Well, we let the results say, okay, to tell the truth. All right, but so the truth is, Chu-Heng cruised through with another 3-0 during the draft, and after the draft, right, you actually met 3 Guardians, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
So the first game, the round 7 is Bravo, and followed by 2 Odim. All right. So how do you overcome all these mountains?
Okay, so the Bravo, I would say Bravo is probably the matchup I'm not too confident in. I'm not too sure what the right sideboard, because I don't really see a lot of Bravos in Singapore, right? There's only so many dedicated Bravo players. So I kind of winged it against Bravo. I brought in more block 4s like Oasis Respite and Sig Belows, and I took up some cards that I felt weren't so good. I mean, I'm not sure whether they will be better. I just kind of winged it and went with a strategy that I felt is probably better in a sense, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
From my experience, and I think I did manage to set up quite a good end game against them with the 2 Frost Axes, and I managed IC turn up for 6, I think. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that was pretty good.
Okay. Then how was the game with the audience? Is it
So
very long? Because
I
what
no
I
no
what I
no
felt, my observation is the audience right here in Singapore is not the fatigue kind. It's kind of like the more aggro type. So
so the OHIMs I faced were both developed by a very talented player in Singapore by the name of Kai Yang. He and also helped. I mean, his friends Gordon,
yeah,
the other really good FAB player in Singapore,
correct.
did help test the deck quite a bit. And Kaya was actually on a really long winning streak on OHIM
Yep.
because
Yep.
yeah, the deck is really good. It's just I felt some things didn't really go his way, and the matchup is not as straightforward into Icelander anymore. I think, especially with Icelander packing more attacks. So I think it's some amount of luck involved as well. Because if the OHIM draws too many raids, then he's quite dead in the water in the return on his own turn. When I play blues and I have Raiding Moon.
Correct.
So the OHIM matchups, I think Gordon wasn't too familiar against battle mages. Because in my previous testing while I was back on Freezing Point, I think he kind of handily trashed me consistently. yeah. But after this new build, I think he wasn't too familiar and he made a couple of mistakes. But Kayan really played extremely well. I think that was probably the best game I played the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really close. Yeah,
I think it's very interesting to see how Icelander evolved from calling Singapore all the way until now. Few weekends of nationals, we can see so different. I mean, many different ways to actually handle Icelanders. So, do you think that right now we are in a position to say that we find the perfect solution, the perfect equation for Icelander?
Perfect equation against Icelander.
I think for Icelander.
Oh, for Icelander. I really like the position I'm in right now. I don't think people. I think very few people understand how this deck functions and what you're supposed to do. Right. So, I listened to a lot of like what my friends tell me during the rounds, and their their impression on different Icelander players and how they approach the game is all different. So. To say my build is perfect, I don't think it's perfect, but it suits me. And I think playing Flesh and Blood is interesting in that sense because as long as the deck is to your playstyle, I think decks can function differently.
Yeah, some players value the stack. Okay, at the second cycle.
Yeah, the second cycle.
Some actually will value their cards early stage to exert more damage as soon as possible. Yeah, it really depends on your playstyle. Yeah. Okay, so cruising through another 3-0. So 9-0 going to day 2. And day 2 Singapore Nationals, we started off with 3 drafts. And then we will cut into top 8, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So drafting seems to be your very talented area. So what would you expect for day 2?
So I mean basically the pods are segregated into every 8 players in one pod, right? So I know who's drafting in my pod.
Yeah.
The only thing I do not know is what seed I'll be in, and that can be a little worrying considering now definitely everyone knows I'm on. I prefer drafting Icelander.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of expected you'll be drafting Icelander.
Yeah, so hopefully I can get to draft maybe a better than average 5 deck or Jomai deck, hopefully. if they lock me out, I have no idea. Or possibly, maybe I'm not getting past the cards by the players who, would counter draft Icelander against me. So I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, looking at your pot, right? You're only 9-0. Yep. There's Zach Lau at 8-1. Yep. The rest of the players are actually 7-2. Yeah, to cut into top 8, every single player right here actually has a very high chance. Yeah. So this 3 drafting game, it's essentially important to every one of you.
Yeah, I would say it's more important to the rest because if my calculations are correct, I'm pretty
Yeah, you're
much
kind of like
already
safe
in
for
the
your top
top
8.
8. Yeah, I'm pretty safe. But
Correct.
that doesn't mean I'm going to throw the job or anything. I'm definitely going to draft as well as I hope to draft.
Because more wins actually secure you for a better seat.
Yeah, exactly. And having a better seat is better for Iceland. Going first and setting up like Frost Hexes in Julius shoes, I'll take that.
Just let's say all players in pot 1 will go into top 8. You are in a quite a good position though.
I mean, I would prefer if I do not face like Gordon or Kayang on Ohim, because I think they adapt quite fast and it will be very challenging. But I mean, more fires is good for me, I guess, if there is any left. Yeah.
What I can see in one glass is more Ohim than fire though.
Yeah, I think the remaining Ohim players in like close to top 8 are all really good players, so
Indeed.
it's kind of expected. Yeah.
Right. I kind of like tasted how they play around with opponents before. So, all right. So, you have a good rest. So we are expecting great games in day 2. So we will also be videoing down some of the top 8 games, and hopefully to see you in the top 6. Because looking at your winning streak, right? Looking at your track records, right? Drafting shouldn't be a problem. So we kind of like expected you to be in the top seed though, Chu-Heng.
Okay. I honestly did not expect to like do so well today. I kind of made a joke today about this like existing meme going around in Singapore, but I kind of I think backfired or something. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna be the meme of the country in like a few hours.
What are the chances to be a meme to a country?
I mean, for Flash and Bud, so I think it's quite cool, but at the same time, it's a little embarrassing. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep this open. Then I'll get you back for more interviews. All right.
Sure.
No matter what. Let's see what you have to say after day 2. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
All the best. Have a good rest, and I'll see you at the arena tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks.